Welcome back, everybody. We had a small change of commentary team here. Now we are joined by the eternally surprised who just got off from his invitational seat and will be joining us on the commentary seat now. How are you doing, Eternally?
Yeah, fine, despite getting pretty wrecked on camera twice by the control decks. But
Yes.
they had to battle it out between themselves and kind of did a good job at that. Casting Brainstorm as a first spell on turn 5. Bit of a
Oh,
different speed than the matches against Rax and and Will.
okay, so here for the finals of our invitational tournament, we have two players here, Tensai and Mr. Fringe. We've seen both before on camera. Cephalid Breakfast, a blue-white combo deck with a little black splash, and Mr. Fringe on blue-white control. By the way, with Eternally joining me here from Germany, I'm also from Germany. I have a new announcement to make. We are switching over to German. Also vielen Dank, meine Damen und Herren. Wir machen weiter in Deutsch. Just kidding.
Just kidding. Yeah, Tensei just got back home from work. He played the first few rounds at work as he did before, and now has to get everything ready, as we can see. um, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like basically the two blue-white decks making it into the finals today with definitely a different edge. Like when we looked at the brackets, it was like, oh yeah, this is like all combo decks. Mr. Fringe is like the least combo-y deck with just the one laser doing, and here we go.
For sure. Who do you see like favored in this kind of matchup? Because in the last matchup we saw both players like switching out a lot of blasts like, into the main deck and being able to go back and forth, but Tensai has new tools with Cavern of Souls, either while they play around Force of Will, and has a relatively cheap combo to get on the battlefield, and that's not as easy to interact with. So how do you see Mr. Fringe like faring against this kind of deck here?
It's definitely going to be interesting. Tensei has a deck that can go fast, but especially post board also has like a decent plan for a long game. Just putting creatures into play, getting Stoneforge Mystic, Kaldra. True Name Nemesis is obviously a big one. Not sure if Mr. Fringe is going to bring in the Supreme Verdicts for that and rely on Blast rather, but we will see. Tensei, of course, is a master at his deck and has shown that on multiple occasions, also here on stream, of course, also against me. And it's going to be interesting for sure.
And
And
do not underestimate the power of top decking. Tensai has like maxed out his luck stat over the years, so he's one of the most powerful characters with the like best character sheet with a lot of int and luck. That's all you need for Magic. So uh, I'm I'm interested how it's going to
yeah,
play out.
Ether Vial on 2 is definitely the scariest in that deck, especially with the one of Grand Abolisher. He used to play some number of recruiters to find combo pieces to find Grand Abolisher, but it's just relying more on a general game plan and finding the combo on its own. But yeah, Grand Abolisher is obviously a beating coming out of Nether Vial. You can never be sure.
By the way, is one of the cards maybe that was switched out for one of the recruiters the new white edition that brings back creatures that patch up from Kaldheim? No, not Kaldheim, but from New Capenna.
Yeah, that is definitely one. Um, it's not as good against these white control decks because they won't put the creatures into the graveyard. They just straight up exile them, so it's harder to get them back actually. But just getting back like a Stoneforge Mystic or something like that, or just getting back Grand Abolisher if it ends up in the graveyard somehow, is obviously huge if it gets countered, and that's maybe an aspect that can happen.
That's one of the ways to go for sure. So the players, Fringe keeps his 7. Tensai also keeps his 7. I think we are ready to go.
Hope so. Tensei's still cleaning up a bit,
Uh,
but should be fine.
I
Maybe I don't know. Maybe it spilled some liquid. Looks like it. Not the best to do while playing Magic, but we are heading off to a really good start. I think turn one Thoughtseize against a control deck always feels great. But
So we have a one lander and Ponder Brainstorm 2 forces, Jace and Narset. So that's a lot of permission.
yeah,
And what do you
I
take here?
think it very much depends on Tensai's hand, which obviously we don't know. So I think Force of Negation is not at its best in this matchup, especially with like milling over Cabal Therapy, sacking them, flashing them back to get one of the permission spells. And I think I would also have taken Ponder, prepared for a longer game. Especially now Brainstorm needs to hit, which is a bit hard, and you can, in Fringe's position, can get Brainstorm locked.
Yeah, like if you get Brainstorm locked here, that's really bad on your side because you need to make those land drops as the control deck. Okay,
I had before
Tensai.
a while. That's kind of like one of the few relevant targets for Force of Negation, I guess. And that's also what Fringe decides. So I think we're good here. Might
I
be a
mean,
bait spell. It does
it
get exiled though.
it might be a bait spell. Yeah, it does not. But if you have the vial, you can play around the force very well. So then you have to deal with cable therapy if you get the combo on the battlefield. So I think
Yeah,
this seems to be a pretty solid choice to get rid of the vial.
yeah, definitely. It also blanks the Force of Will in hand, and like the play pattern that happens often enough, especially if you don't have Prismatic Ending, which Fringe didn't have, also not having white mana in general. Um, that can happen is you play while you play Cavern of Souls and the other creature in your hand, and then just go for it.
Yeah.
Like even a turn one while still enables a turn two kill.
Okay. Tensai keeps draws with the ponder. And of note, Mr. Fringe not playing in the end step, going for the main phase, brainstorm to see one more card. Because if you miss in the end step, that's a bad feeling because you will need to take this extra turn anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also the brainstorm on main phase maybe hints at um, having missed the land drop. Or he's another basic mountain, so it's Fringe did get the land, but it's obviously not the land you would want in game one with no red spells in your main deck.
How can you take advantage of this board state from Tensai's side?
Basically, just casting spells. Fringe still has a force, or it's already down a card from forcing once, so taking a second or like making Fringe use a second force of will is just putting him behind quite a lot, especially if you think that maybe he's brainstorm locked and can't fetch the top two
Yeah.
cards away.
I mean, Tensai gets a lot of time to set up his combo, find the right cards.
Yeah. And also just play the pressure game. Like with no white mana, it's still hard to interact with like the onboard stuff. Kaldra is a fast clock if you don't plow it.
Yeah. I mean, in the earlier matches of Tensai, we saw a Stoneforge hitting every turn too. So, oh, we found the white and blue source that we might wanted.
Yeah, that's pretty huge for sure. The mountain is kind of like a colorless land, which is pretty awkward in game one. It turns into a better card in the second one, but still it's kind of mediocre at best right now. And also still having to decide between double blue and all your colors. I mean, you obviously need the white mana at some point, but
I
still,
mean, white gives you access to fairy, which is also a card that Tensai very much has to um, pay respect to if it
Yeah,
bounces the Ether Vial and Prismatic Ending.
yeah, for sure. I mean, you need to fetch white in that spot, but still, it's taking you off of a few cards. It's just cantrip into cantrip. Hardcast Force of Negation.
Okay, I think we are set on mana here. Tundra, double blue, double white.
And here's the Teferi you talked about. Brainstorm in response, which is interesting.
And here you see one of the beautiful anti-GPL brainstorm tokens.
Tensei
They-
probably the person owning the highest amount of tokens of these.
I'm pretty sure. I think he has a playset of every single token card that we have.
I think so.
Response brainstorm. And there's still the force of will in Fringe's hand. So if he starts fighting um for the Stefari, do you protect it or you just let it go?
I think you just let it go. Like there's not much like of course you have your own forces that are blanked by it, but on the other hand, it doesn't interact that much with your game plan overall. Like you recast the wire is kind of saying like, oh, I don't care about Teferi,
Yeah.
and I also don't care about not being able to force back because you can't force my stuff in the first place. So here's the first bait spell for Force of Will for sure. The Illusionist. It's interesting, like the Illusionist here in this spot maybe hints at Tensai having the card that brings it back because he knows about the Force of Will. And if it gets plowed, it's probably also okay.
I mean, you know about the chase in hand, so you can just consider bouncing it and then countering on the way back.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's what you really want to do. It puts 3 cards in Tensai's graveyard, so might hit something relevant. Narset is more like, okay, Fringe is digging for answers.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially with Wire going up to 1, that represents uncountable nomads.
yeah, I think we are looking for our way to like a swords or prismatic ending here.
Another Teferi, which is interesting. So it's probably like kind of a bad whiff of Narset.
Yeah, possibly. Okay, I mean, Tensai had the opportunity to cast 2 Ponders, 2 Brainstorms, to find a lot of cards. Fringe has 5 cards in hand. 2 of them are known, which should be Teferi and Force of Negation.
Yeah, the
And
thing is,
Ten,
Fringe has instant speed prismatic ending, but it does not really help against nomads out of the wild because you can just interact on the stack and bounce your entire. That's Solitude on upkeep. Here we go. That's why the Teferi might have been picked. And it just exiles the illusionist.
okay. Okay, that might also explain the Narset to take a white card that you don't need. So was this before the trigger on the Ether vial? Because Tensei
I
should
think
be able to.
it was definitely an upkeep. He has the 3 cards mill. There's an Oracle and another illusionist, which is interesting. I mean, the Oracle is a card you don't want to draw anyway, so it's like safe in the graveyard. The only way to get it out of there is Days Undoing on Fringe's side right now, about the Surgicals. And Hardcast Narcomoeba. Legacy stable 2 mana 1/1. Flying. Budget Murktide Regent.
Yes, yes, two
And
mana flying creatures. Oh, okay. Now the clock is
something.
real. Increase the clock.
Yeah, and on the other hand, it's also something that says, okay, Tensei can't really go for a combo with two Narcomoebas in hand. And especially now that, of course, you can draw no cards and put back the two Narcomoebas, but that's not really the space you want to be in.
Do you just downtick Narset to find more cards, or do you say, okay, I want to have them? Oh, find a
Hmm?
new land with the dragon, and
That's
now
a
you
big
have.
blocker for Narcomoebas.
That's for sure. So the the match is really interesting, going back and forth. Like Mr. Fringe playing about Tensai's combo. Tensai is like probably out of the ballpark for the value game. So he has like it's combo deck versus control now. But how do you see the advantage meter at this point in the game?
um, I think especially with the Timeless Dragon in the graveyard, and I think Tensei does not have any swords in his main deck. Um, it's getting rough getting through the Timeless Dragon token, the 4/4.
Upkeep, days, and doing. Tensai drew the card for the turn.
Draws
Is
the
able.
That's at least something. But that might very well end it. Like Tensei is gonna have 0 cards in the hand after this,
Yes.
and 3 kind of meaningless creatures on the battlefield.
So I think that made a big ding. The Narcomoebas can't pressure any of the planeswalkers. So do you even care about Narset anymore? Or do you go like part on Teferi, part on Narset, so they both can't like generate much value?
Yeah, it's a difficult spot for sure for Tensai. I mean, taking down Narset has the advantage of at least giving you outs by drawing a few cantrips and hoping that Fringe just misses. um, so yeah, that's also what Tensei is doing here. And the next turn you can kind of sacrifice. Oh yeah, the Timeless Dragon of course is gone because of Days Undoing.
Yes.
Um, so there's no dragon coming down. So it's probably the right choice to go after Narset.
Rainstorm. Look at some more cards.
Yeah, and at that point, like player, that's exactly it. Playing a fetch land, you'll see basically 11 cards after the Days Undoing. Um, I think it's pretty hard to lose from there, despite the onboard being behind on board.
We have to do anything on Mr. Fringes. Okay, you.
I think it's on the while, yeah. Because that's another thing you're scared of. You have forces in hand, like a top deck Nomads can still get there. I mean, the while isn't 2, but still, or a Stoneforge off of the top if you don't have any of the any sorts of plowshares.
The grip is full on Fringe's side. Do you go like combat? I mean, the cantrips can be reactivated by killing Narset, but then still it's pretty bad on Tensai side. Mr.
Yeah,
Fringe has 4 open mana. He can play the Wandering Emperor. He can play Snapcaster. Does he play Snapcaster in the deck, or is it? Let's take a look. Solitude.
no, there's no snap
No.
targets. It's basically Solitude. It's just an interesting choice, like picking Solitude over Snapcaster, especially because in the fair creature matchups, often enough, the main line you go for is Snap for Swords. Um, and Solitude is kind of acting on the same level. It's eventually killing your opponent. Life gain can be huge against fast decks,
Yeah.
and just having a 3/2 with lifelink, yeah, in a control deck can win the game. And 3 power over 2 power is a huge difference as well.
That's a thankful mill on Tensor's side, getting rid of 3 lands for him off the top of the library.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been horrible draws. 3 lands in a row.
Oh, the first basic island in our matchup. Looking over to Tensor's side, is something like back to basics an option that you want to have available if he goes aggressive into the duels again?
I'm,
Because
I'm
he
not
can
sure.
he can go for basics. He has 2 islands, he has his planes, um, so he can play like the most of his deck. But looking at the game state right now, do you think you can try to like juke your opponent into tapping out and getting rid of his mana production?
I don't think that's actually worth it. I mean, Tensor Stack can function on very little mana. Also, they have Ether Vial, which is another thing that says I don't care about back to basics. And I think the combination of that, like, makes it a mediocre card. And I think you just have better options. So, of course, you can happen to cheese your opponent, but on the other hand, like, your own mana development is also very important, and you want to have access to all your colors, especially post-board with the red blasts. So fetching for Volcanic Island from Fringe's perspective is just way better than fetching for basic Mountain. And in line with that, um, I think it's basically just not really a good card in that matchup. Like what it will probably do most of the time is just pitch to Force of Will.
When looking at his own card, okay, Jay's easily able to be on pace with the Narcomoebas.
That's also an interesting play. Like Tensai doesn't have much going on, so passing on Tensai would have had some value. And I think Prince should have enough cards in hand to still really have the upper hand, especially with the 2 planeswalkers in play.
Okay, we're seeing a little bit of lag here, but okay, going after Jace. So that's what I went earlier. Like with the Wandering Emperor, if you can get this token on the battlefield, you are able to make the token, tick it up every turn, and just like have a lethal threat after a few turns, while your opponent is just trying to keep down the loyalty on the Wandering Emperor. So those slower kind of matchups,
Oh, here we go.
here we go. Just it's like Beetlejuice. You have to name it 3 times. Wandering Emperor, Wandering Emperor, Wandering Emperor. Snap it there.
Yeah, Exiles and Alchemy against 2 life. I mean, that's also something like the Planeswalkers suck up so much combat damage that Fringe is just, I think, still above 20 life. So far from dead by non-combo damage. And then Alchemy, the first Alchemy by getting exiled, also makes it harder for Tensai to actually go and combo off. It might be something that Tensai is just keeping in hand. Like he hasn't played anything except for the same Narcomoebas for quite some time now. So that's either it's like reactive cards like Force of Will, which don't do anything against Teferi, but I rather think it's parts of the combo, and he's just trying to find the right spot and find like a bit of weakness on Fringe's side.
Yeah.
And put,
I'm not sure if I like
oh,
Exile. Oh
and you can see,
wow.
no, it's not that. It's just more lands.
Okay, that's it. I don't know if I like the play of exiling the token instead of making your own threat and just uptaking with the Emperor every turn.
Yeah,
But depending on the hand, it always changes the outcome of your choices. So we have Mr. Fringe taking down the first game. Looking at the sideboard options, we have one deck from going back 10 size Cephalid Breakfast. can you go through the sideboard with me and see and tell me what would you bring in, what would you take out?
I mean, it's kind of a transformational sideboard in some ways with a 3 prismatic ending, 3 swords to plowshares, the True Name Nemesis, and the Flusterstorms to go to a more controlling route. The problem here is that prismatic ending and swords are not really the cards that you want to bring in against like the control deck. Maybe prismatic ending in some ways to deal with Narsets and Teferis, but overall just going like putting out the entire combo I think is not the way to go. In terms of cards that might come out, I think maybe Patch Up is one of them. Um, yeah, because of all the exile removal. On the other hand, like Grand Abolisher is obviously great.
I think in previous
Caldra,
matches we've seen Tainted Indulgence being removed after sideboarding.
yeah, the thing is Malfi is on 3 Hull Breaches and Narsets, so a lot more into the draw cards denial. So draw 2 cards, discard a card is just very dangerous if your opponent has a bunch of Hull Breaches running around, and it's just more likely to be a dead card um,
That's
after they resolve an Narset or something like that. So maybe it's not the best card. Also, if Fringe has 3 surgical extractions in the sideboard, if he brings any of these in, then discarding anything of relevance also makes it harder. And I really see that as a decent choice. Like surgical extraction can just randomly hit good pieces out of your opponent's deck. That's
okay.
like Malfi brought them in, and I know it at least from playing Delver on the other side. If you play Delver against control decks, you definitely can bring in surgicals and try to hit their prismatic endings with swords to plowshares or something like that. And in that case, it's more like let's see if we can hit any of the control decks, control combo pieces like a Cephalid Illusionist, and then just not care about it anymore.
Switching over to Mr. Fringe, we have 2 Pyroblast, 2 Elemental Blast, 3 Surgical Extraction, a Flusterstorm, 2 Back to Basics, 2 Supreme Verdict Meltdown, Gravedigger's Cage, and Prismatic Ending. So I think blasts are easy includes again in the blue mirror. Would you bring in Gravedigger's Cage against the combo if the Oracle is milled into the graveyard? Because maybe there will be no prismatic endings on Tensai side.
Mm, I'm not sure. I think post-board naturally Tensor is less into
Oh, looks like we have a very small connection issue over here, but no worries. We will bring Eternally just right back up. Okay. Oh, Melfi posted in the comments. Jace is his win con. You did anything more, you can get the important pieces. So we'll see if he tries to continue winning with Jace as his win condition. And while we are waiting for Eternally to come back online, let's look at the players. It looks like they finished sideboarding. Tensai's made his piles and will be on the play for game 2. So Mr. Fringe also done sideboarding, shuffling up his hand. Nice. Okay, we see Eternally again. Small hiccup,
here we
but
are.
back
Internet
among the living. Let's
said goodbye for a second.
let's get the light going here too.
Yeah, the players are ready to go and deciding on the mulligans.
Okay.
Tensai is keeping 7, which against your control decks where you do a lot of trades, it's probably a good way to start.
Yes. I mean, Tensai is the person who has more time to like develop his combo. He has discards, so he can get easy information on Mr. Fringe's hand and see if he's ready to go for the combo or not. Mr. Fringe, on the
Yeah.
other hand, has to have some way to interact early on and buy some time. Okay, Tensai being on the play fetches for a dual Tundra. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's not, yeah, as I said, it's not a back to basics matchup, so I think both players are kind of free to fetch dual lands.
Okay.
Ether Vial is obviously a really good start and can hint at a fast combo.
The interesting part about the our Tensai stack is whatever you do, you always need the illusionist. So sometimes like, I think you can keep a lot of hands where you just have the early illusionist, but you have problems with the hands where you don't have it and find just the other combo pieces, like the Nomad's Encore or the Shuko, because
Yeah,
there's so many ways to like you have 8 enablers for one side and just 4 for the other side.
yeah. Um, Another aspect is that, especially with Vial, something you can always do that is pretty interesting is if you cast one of them and have the Vial on the mana value of the other one, um, instant speed removal might just not be enough. Or like you can bait something out, like you, I don't know, cast an illusionist, have Vial on one. Your opponent casts Source of Ploughshares on the illusionist. In response, you activate Ether Vial on one, and if it's nomads, you can still combo off
You
on
just
this
have to
deck.
be
So
careful to do the right counting. If it's in your opponent's turn, then you have
yeah,
to count to 4 cards at least down in the library, because after the swords trigger or removal spell triggers resolves on the illusionist, there's still 3 more cards that will be milled.
yeah, definitely. But I think Tensai is experienced enough to know these interactions. But also, if you don't have the creature, it may put your opponent into a spot where you just have to like spend 2 Force of Wills on the illusionist without you having a second combo piece actually.
For sure. Like a Violet 2 is really scary because it might be a Abolisher, it might be one of the combo pieces, or it just might be end step Stoneforge Mystic for Kaldra.
Yeah,
So you still have to respect it, whatever it gets out.
I think Tensai missing a land drop here. The Vial is kind of making up for it, but on the other hand, you still want to make your land drops and be able to interact.
That's true in some regard, but Tensai, like his most expensive spell is Force of Will, and with his curve is topping out at 3 CMC, so it's closer to Delvada compared to Mr. Fringe's control deck that has a lot of 3 drops, 4 drops, and even 5 drops with a Solitude, Timeless Dragon, and Force of Will, so
Yeah.
it's much less painful on his side.
Also, obviously, the control deck is much more likely to hardcast Force of Will just in terms of play patterns.
So, going into your perspective from World Gorger Dragon combo, playing against Tensai, what is your game plan? Is it just like combo every time, just going discard and trying to get your game going, or do
Yeah,
you
I think
do you,
so.
do you even try to disrupt with some graveyard hate?
Like World Culture doesn't have any graveyard hate. The graveyard hate is winning on turn one. That was how the
Okay.
match against Will turned out. Like in all 3 games, one of us got Griselbrand into play on turn one and somehow ended up winning. And I think like yeah, Breakfast is obviously the slower deck, and depending on whether you're on the draw or on the play, like on the play, you can just like one discard, one Force of Will in your opponent's hand is not much to get through.
We might see the true name Nemesis again. So
Looks
we've
very much like it. Ether Vial on 3 definitely looks like a true nemesis. Especially this is interesting because it's playing around Red Blast.
yes. So I think we definitely need to give True Name Nemesis a pay raise after today because it has to do some heavy lifting against those blue control decks.
One difference between between Mr. Fringe's deck and Malfi's deck, however, are the two dress downs. So it is actually possible for Fringe to get rid of the True Name Nemesis despite the protection from your opponent. So that's something to keep in mind.
That's true for sure. So we might see the combo of Jitte and True Name Nemesis assembled again, but as you mentioned before, there's a lot of outs on there are outs on Mr. Fringe's side. Okay.
It's prismatic on the ending on the vial, which is definitely like I mean there's not anything else coming out of the vial on 3 besides True Name
Yeah.
Nemesis, so it's just baiting it out, so that might hint at the dress down. Or just generally like especially if not hitting Umezawa's cheetah.
With the nah, I was just thinking with the trigger on the stake, would you consider playing dress down in response? But then again, you just don't have to put the two name out. So
Yeah, sure. I mean it's basically doing exactly the same thing. It's not having protect like there's not much that Fringe is gonna put into play, and this also opens up another line of like on Tense's end step, cast dress down and kill the Tunem on your turn. Like a sweet line would be end of turn, dress down, main phase, Wandering Emperor, and kill the Tunem, exile the Tunem. Yeah, here we go. Here's the dress down. See?
oh, it looks like a blast as an answer to
Yeah.
yeah to the two name, not a swords.
And the force, pitching force.
Interestingly enough, I think you just let it resolve on Mr. Finch's side. Oh no, this was not an end step.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
mid combat, which is
yeah.
um
You could have
yeah,
just taken the 3 damage, done this whole interaction in the end step, and then you have your whole turn available to you to still
yeah,
kill the two name.
yeah.
And
And also you can fight over the dress down with Red Blast. And we have Supreme
oh,
Verdict, so who cares?
okay. Oh,
Mhm.
this. So we have to see. So he cast the Flusterstorm. Does it still resolve?
I think he took it back into his hand. Yeah,
Okay.
you're the judge. You have to judge them.
Uh, like okay, we see the Nomad's Encore here.
Interestingly, not equipping them with Umezawa's cheetah. So yeah, the Flusterstorm is still in hand, so that's a reason to keep mana open.
Yes, for
Countering a
sure.
removal spell is difficult with your opponent being on 5 mana. And Flusterstorm, like they cast a removal spell, you're countered if they don't pay 2, so they can just pay. And Teferi says no
I
Flusterstorm.
don't care about Flusterstorm
Conjuring.
anyway.
Just a hard no. Are you bouncing the cheat or the nomads? Probably the nomads, yeah.
Nomads every time the Nomads because you can just recast the Jita and the Nomads
Yeah.
are threatening the Teferi, so
Yeah, especially if you know about the Flusterstorm in hand. And prismatic ending on the Teferi to enable the Flusterstorm. I mean, there's not much more to actually prismatic ending, like Wandering Emperor tokens are not the most important thing. It also might be that Tensor is still like now trying to rely more on the combo, like keeping. Ooh, here's Chase, which is a big one,
yes. But
especially in terms of card advantage. Your Flusterstorm can't fight over it.
I mean, of note, we have one of the combo pieces in hand. We have one piece of protection in hand. He only needs another illusionist. He casts one of them. He casts the second one. That's Stormcon 2 already, so he can turn off a lot of cards that Mr. Fringe could have
Yeah,
to answer the combo.
especially yeah, right now it's probably the best window for Tensai, with Fringe being vulnerable to Flusterstorm, having only 2 mana open. Oh, but it's just Nomad's Pass.
Okay, I mean, if you have the combo available, you might as well go for it. But if you don't have it, that's the only thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Mr. Fringe brainstorming with the Jace.
Isn't that like a relieving feeling when your opponent has 3 open mana in your blue deck and you have Jason, you can just brainstorm and not care about Hull Breacher?
Oh yes, that's the way to go.
I mean,
So
just definitely pulling ahead now with Chase taking it up. I mean, you need some answer to the Nomads still because Cheetah and Equip the Nomads can make it big enough to kill Chase, and you probably want to keep Chase around and not sacrifice it to something like that.
for
But
sure, I mean, you have limited resources, but you might as well use what you have on the battlefield to draw out the removal and oh,
here's the combo threatening the kill. It's going to be interesting. Like, one of the cards in hand is Flusterstorm, and Storm count is 1.
okay. In
There's
response,
Wars in the
Swords.
Nomads. Might also be that Tensei just has a redundant copy of the Nomads in play. That would be another good one. Get enough storm count so you can actually fluster back.
Yes, also very possible. 3 cards in hand. Tensai going up to 18 life, but the resource,
Ooh, and here's another red blast from the illusionist.
that's the third spell, and he can pay with Flusterstorm. So it
Gotcha.
looks
That
like
again.
the French. So
And he's just paying.
yeah, Tensai is pretty low on resources. Mr. Fringe should still have something like 4 or 5 cards in hand. Oh,
But that's a scribbland. So that should not work.
yep.
So Fluster Storm is gone. Illusionist is gone.
Great work spotting this there. And did we have the mill 3? No,
Not
this
yet.
was on the stack. This was on the stack. The Cephalid Illusionist wasn't resolved yet.
Ah, okay, yeah, sure.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Press Beauty W, being our table spotter here, having everything in sight, reminding the players when they have a Scrubland also available. And this is like
Oh yeah,
top-notch information.
the illusionist was counted on the stack by the red
Yes.
blast. So that's why there was no mill. And here are more nomads. Is there another illusionist? Yeah, there is. It's getting and the Flusterstorm now in hand actually.
Wow.
But once again, Solitude, it's also immune to Flusterstorm. And now here we have exactly that. I mean, the Solitude can die to the cheetah, but
I don't think so because you have Jace Bounce available, and
no,
you
you
know
can
the
just
only
you can
card.
just remove you can just remove 2 counters and give it -2/-2.
Ah, that's true. That's true. Uh, so we have taken care of 2 nomads and core
Yeah, there's
and
two
one
nomads and
illusionist.
one illusionist.
Okay, that's half the combo, possibly, that is removed from Tensai stack.
Yeah, and a prismatic ending on. But you exile. Yeah, now you illusionist. Now you mill 3 cards. See, Island Brainstorm and Stoneforge.
Do you use the jitter counters now, or do you just keep them up for later?
Hmm, I I think you just keep them up for later. Here is the cage, so kind of makes the combo less, even less good than it already was with half of it gone.
Mr. Finch still 5 cards in hand.
Yeah,
Pretty decent grip. Tensai being low on resources, we know there's one Flusterstorm left. Using the jitter counters.
like realistically, what draws do you need to get out of this against the active Jace? Basically nothing on board. A Flusterstorm that only hits when your opponent allows it, basically.
Heaven into True Name is something that could go all the way.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely something. Um, on the other hand, maybe we're just still brainstorming. Maybe that's like the spot. You know, your opponent has one Flusterstorm and one unknown card they didn't cast, so maybe that is the spot where you start plussing with Jace.
Okay,
Prevent something like
Tensai.
that. I mean, you have Hardcast Force of Will open, but you don't want to do that against the Flusterstorm. And it's just going to happen.
I mean, you can even pay. It's only 2 mana. Oh no, it's 3.
Yeah.
3 mana with a Force, Stoneforge, and the Flusterstorm itself.
And the swords. Which will not get countered by Flusterstorm anytime soon.
Just depends on what Mr. Finch wants to pay or not.
I guess
Oh,
you want to pay in that spot. One
okay.
Flusterstorm is already gone. There's not a second one. You're not fearing Hardcast Force out of your opponent. One card is Kaldra anyway.
We are going for the Jace win here. We have the combo protection with the Gravedigger's Cage. We have a full hand of cards. We can take up uh, take up Jace every turn. So this looks like it will be over very soon. By the way,
Yeah, I think so. Which means bracket reset once again.
we don't have a Mystical Sanctuary in Mr. Fringe's deck. What do you think about Mystic Sanctuary here as an option to find more gas in the late game when you want to set something up?
Oh, it's a great card. It's really good in control decks, but to be honest, I think it's even better in Blue Red Delver, where you can just pick up Mystic Sanctuary and suddenly turn your Dazes into live cards in the late game. So, but also for the control decks, just doubling the amount of cards you have access to basically in the late game. And also, you don't care too much in many matchups again, like about playing a tapped land on turn one.
Yeah.
It's acceptable in these matches.
So Mr. Fringe continuously taking up Jace, answering everything Tensai tries to get on the board. Do you think there's a way to get out of this?
To be honest, I don't think so. Um,
Okay.
like Finch is controlling at least most of Tensai's draws. Jita doesn't do much. Like being starting beatdown on Chase is also it's late for that.
Way too
He's already
late.
on 9, and your creatures don't hit hard enough to actively fight the +2 in the spot. And you need your opponent to not have an answer.
Another Stoneforge Mystic. What do we have? We only have Shuko left in the deck, do we?
Even though +1/+0 is not no text.
I mean, it's a combo piece, so now we only need one of the two left illusionists.
and a
And
dramatic ending. If
or,
Tensei
or
put any in.
or Oracle in hand, and your opponent is not allowed to
Yeah.
have any amount of forces in his hand.
And then our swords. I mean, Tensei's cards in hand are just, there's at least 3 really bad cards. Basically, Shuku has no text right now, Kaldra has no text, Flusterstorm basically doesn't have text. And Fringe is picking up Teferi, picking up Jace on you, so.
Yeah, that's basically the closing minutes of the game.
Yeah. He's reverting back to brainstorming here. So maybe he's not as set up as he wants to be, but yeah, now set is definitely another one that can help seal the deal. Because yeah, brainstorm off the top is always like a card that you can draw. That can just change the entire looks of your hand. But Narset just makes that really bad as well. And grabs the Pyroblast just in case.
So I've been looking through the deck list. It's getting like the advantage with this like up and like going up and up on Mr. Fringe. So we might be heading into the bracket reset. What does the bracket reset mean for us? Can you explain it for us maybe?
The bracket reset means basically to get knocked out of the tournament, you need to lose twice. And Tensei has not lost a single match yet. So he has to lose twice. And in order for that to do, Mr. Fringe has to beat Tensei in 2 matches to accomplish that. So the next game after that one, given that Fringe wins, actually, which is looking very likely, the next match will be pre-boarded again. And we will start all over for the
Yes,
actual finals.
the finals. Okay, here we see Planeswalker Tron assembled yet again. Jace is close to ultimate. And Tensai tries to get rid of his Fluster Song finally by pitching a force. Red
Yeah,
Blast is available.
the blast was known information, but I mean, both cards have no text once Teferi resolves.
That's true.
So you might just get a card out of your opponent's hand. It smells of Days Undoing, however. Plusing Teferi, not bouncing anything to draw a card, just might be able to get there. 3 Grand Abolisher. Here we are. The one scary card that you need to answer with Force of Will.
Do you? Because you still need the illusionists and the ending for the cage.
Yeah, but it's just so scary to have it around. Tensei has been hoarding cards. I mean, okay, there's one of them is Kaldra and 2 more cards. He's counting right now to see how many outs he still has. Yeah, he can't win this turn.
Oh, we have
Rhythm.
another press down. So that definitely shuts down any combo potential for Tensai.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it sticks around until the end step, so Tensai theoretically still has the end step to do something without Fringe being able to interact. But there's your cavern. Finally, the first one. On Wizard, which is interesting. So maybe Tensai does have like Illusionist, which is a wizard, and Oracle, which is also a wizard, and the Abolisher is
So if
also
he
an interaction piece.
if he has the Oracle in hand, he might try to go for the combo with the Illusionist and exile his library and then hardcast the Oracle with the
Yeah,
Cavern backup. He knows there's no dress down left. There's only 2 dress downs on the deck, and one of them was used on the 2 name, and the second one was used here.
yeah.
And he only has a single turn left to do so. So let's see. Is he going for it?
I mean, the thing is, it's not getting better. You're facing Chase Ultimate. Chase is on 13, and if your hand doesn't win, I mean, that's another. Oh, that's another interesting option. He has Oracle in hand. He waits for the Chase Ultimate and waits to draw the Oracle naturally, and then cast it on with the Cavern to win, and basically use the Chase Ultimate as a win condition.
That's also a way to win here. Okay. Oh yes, Tensai trying to thwart the Solitude here, and kind of forcing Mr. Fringe to like use the Jace ultimate like in his head. He can't do it because of the fairy, but don't go combat damage. Use the Jace ultimate to win here.
Yeah.
But the question is, does Mr. Fringe see the line? It looked to me like he has the surgical extraction in hand to get information about the cards in Tensai's hand.
Yeah, but of course it makes up for really interesting mind games as well. Like how many turns do I get? There's no way to interact with Oracle besides the 2 dress downs that are already in the graveyard.
I have
Another way to win is if you manage to Pyroblast your own Narset, Ultimate Chase, and then cast Days Undoing.
uh,
Counting cards in the library already.
yeah.
And the Surgical. So we might know what's up.
What are you talking with the surgical? Let's see.
True name?
Surgical on Cephalid. And then
Think.
Tensai has to show his hand here too.
Okay, the illusionists do leave. No illusionist in hand.
Oh, Oracle still in the deck. Maybe he has bought it in the second Oracle.
Yeah, here we are. So it's
Oracle,
already
Caldra,
Caldra.
and Swords. Yeah.
So you know that Chase Ultimate is out.
Dangerous at
Unless,
least.
yeah, unless you have Days Undoing, then you win.
Yep, for sure. Days Undoing is a way to immediately win the game.
I have done that before against not a Doomsday opponent, but actually I think it was against Socrates. After Paradigm Shift, he casts Paradigm Shift, passes the turn. I cast Days Undoing, and he doesn't have 7 cards. Fringe is counting. Go find. Go find the Days Undoing. I
Tensai
mean,
still leaving the Swords in hand.
Yeah, I mean your life total is not. Oh, there's a timeless dragon. I didn't see that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that's what I meant. Like, so now we have a real clock here.
Yeah.
Timeless Dragon is a 5/5 if you hardcast it.
Yes.
So that's 8 damage per turn. That's a 2-turn clock.
And
Yes,
Tensai
I
packs it
pegged
in.
that.
No way to win.
So,
Even with the Chase Ultimate, then you need to exactly draw Oracle. You have 3 cards left. So, and no way, like none of the cards in Tensai's hand draw any other cards.
Record reset!
Yeah,
Nice.
here we go.
Here we go. The players will start sideboarding out again, going into the pre-sideboard matchup. Let's see.
Did we ever not have a bracket reset? Right now, off the top of my head, I actually can't remember that.
Oh ho.
Last time it was Tensai against Rex, and they played a second match where Rex had to mulligan very badly, if I remember correctly.
Okay, looking at the players currently, I see we might have the tournament went a little bit longer than expected for one of our players, and we will have to figure out how we continue here. So, sorry, talking about previous invitational matches or like tournaments, yeah, we had a couple of bracket resets and players crawling up from the bottom up to the finals, winning against the
Oh,
finalists, and then winning.
yeah. So we
So,
will see where this goes.
yes. Okay. So we have an additional timing restriction, so we might have to increase the speed and pace at which we are going. Otherwise, we might have a finals won by sudden death today. So,
Uh-oh.
okay. We are looking at the what the players are typing on the ground. Yep.
Also nice to see, just by the way, after dropping out of the tournament, Rex is already back into playing league matches.
Oh yes, now yeah, we had this before, where one of our other players just went just right after dropping out into the Cosmic Coil, I think into the looking for group, playing some more Legacy, was expecting to play a little bit more this afternoon and getting his fill this way. So for everybody who's joined us later this time, uh, we are the MTGPL, the Paper Legacy Discord, and we offer you a very good platform and experience to play your legacy matches while being proxy friendly. So if you want to test something else and you want to play something new, or you didn't have the ability to get your hands on the reserved list cards to play your decks, just come on, join us, proxy your decks up, and find some people to play with.
Of course, you also may proxy non-reserved list cards.
Of course. So
Tensei is on 2. Fringe wins the die roll and probably take the play.
so the players see their 7 cards, both keep. We see a little bit fast of a pace. Now we know that there's a timing is of importance here. Pensai plays Underground Sea, passes the turn. Blue mages passing it left and right. So Tensai might hope to find this pass combo.
And we answer Brainstorm kind of looks like he's trying to do that. It's more likely game one, even against 2 untapped mana. But the thing with open deck list, of course, playing a combo deck, which I also had to experience very hard, is that if your opponent knows you're in like an all-in combo deck or like on a combo deck, they're not gonna keep hands that are bad against you. And usually that's something you're kind of banking on, especially in game one.
Yes.
Like if you play something like Cephalid Breakfast, you might hide what deck you're actually on for the first couple of turns until it's too late for your opponent. And I think we're just playing against something like Esper.
But at the same time, you have less answers to your opponents. So Mr. Fringe might need the, what does he have? Dress down his forces and swords.
Yeah,
You see double fetch in end step. What do you
accumulated
think?
knowledge.
Knowledge or maybe cycling a timeless dragon?
Yeah, we see. I think it would not have fetched Tundra for the cycle. See, oh yeah, it is Timeless Dragon. That's a
Okay.
clock against the non-Swords to Plowshares, non-removal deck.
So Kevin is set to human. How many humans do we have in Tensor Stack except like the Grand Abolisher and anything else?
I think that's it, which is pretty scary. I mean, nomads are core, yeah. So I think, yeah, Grand Abolish is the only human in the entire deck. So Tensei is up no like not up to any good. I heavily suspect there.
But how much mana do you need to, like, you have to cast the Abolisher, then you have to like
It's
find
5.
your other 2 combo pieces. That's 5 mana. That's a few more turns.
Again, Brainstorm end of turn. Tensei has not yet fetched, so he hasn't seen that many new cards with it. He's probably halfway content with what he has in hand.
So do you think Mr. Fringe is keeping something like Dress Down open at all times?
It might be. It's probably like the best answer to Grand Abolish, an uncounterable Grand Abolisher, or like the only answer to an uncounterable Grand Abolisher.
Yeah.
Maybe Tensei is just planning to make land drops. I mean, Mr. Fringe's deck is not doing much until Tensei is on 5 mana.
So in
Yeah,
this game, Mr. Fringe tries to react in Tensai's end step, or like he can't really tap out completely.
yeah.
So who's the beatdown here?
It's still definitely Tensei. Um, it's like you're not afraid. It's interesting. Like, okay, Fringe is going for the token on the Timeless Dragon. Just put up the clock. Maybe realizing what Tensei is up to. Making
Yeah,
land.
because if Tensai wants to win with a cavern, he only has like he needs 1 more turn.
Yeah,
And
and Stoneforge.
yes.
Stoneforge resolves. I mean, yeah, there's probably you can answer it with Prismatic Ending and um, Swords to Plowshares, so you're not too afraid of that.
Now Tensai has the option to start the race against the Timeless Dragon.
Yeah, but I don't think Kaldra, especially not against Fringe's deck, Kaldra is not the way to do that.
Would you have gone for the Shuko instead to cast the Shuko now to be more efficient next turn of mana to have more ways to interact here, or
Maybe he has it. That's like he's fetching now. Um,
double white available?
and Hardcast Biete. I mean, that's one of the things with Cephalid Breakfast. You can basically put your entire combo into play without your opponent being able to counter any of that.
Okay, removing the Stoneforge Mystic. removes the threat of two cards at the same time, which is kind of nice with the GT and also the Caldra,
Yeah.
and keeping up the clock and now having open mana.
The thing is, like with Grand Abolisher looming so hard, is there a point to keep, like, how much open mana do you need? Like, the only thing is you can actually cast that matters then is Dress Down. And
That's
now
true.
Tensai is on 5 mana, so we're gonna see how my theory works out, or if it does.
Maybe there's also a Wandering Emperor looming in the end step if Tensai does not go for the combo here. Just to increase the clock and pressure Tensai into going into the combo while he still has some amount of interaction available.
Here we go. Let's see. Rethinking it. There's an illusionist. So no mana from the cavern. And it resolves. For those of you who didn't know, Cephalid Illusionist actually has text written on it, besides you can win the game with it. But it basically makes up for good blockers. You can pay 3 mana, tap it, and prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to and dealt by target creature you control. So you can play an Alchemeba and block the Timeless Dragon. However, I don't think that is really where you want to be.
Okay, Fringe continue the smash down with the dragon. Just did he miss his land drop here? Just drawing a card, playing, cycling the accumulated knowledge in the end step. 14,
Yeah, he
7.
did, which is when your control opponent misses their land drop, even if it's land drop number 6, you know they're up for a lot of good cards in hand. Because with the illusionist surviving the entire turn cycle means another thing that you like. What Tensor might be doing here now: cast Grand Abolisher, wait for the swords. Here we go. Wait for the swords of the dress down. Maybe fight back or have another, like if it's swords to plowshares. Here we go. Yeah, swords on the illusionist. Just have a second illusionist and a second nomads. Yeah, this resolves. Mills 3 cards. There's a nomad and a
Oh,
cabal therapy. If Fringe wants to dress down, he has to do that now.
and
If
Tensai. Is it the Emperor? It's the Emperor.
he is the emperor, and it makes a token.
He, of
So
note, he
okay,
doesn't have to make the token immediately. He can just cast the Emperor and still do the
no,
token
because
whenever.
Grand Abolisher says you can't activate abilities either.
Oh, it's also abilities.
Yeah,
Okay, let's
and
see.
go
So
Tuko,
who's the Shuko? Do we
and
have the
backup
second?
non backup illusionist. Here we go.
Here we go.
Fringe packs
Yep,
it in. So Tensei rewarded for the patient play here.
very much so. But also, I really liked how Mr. Fringe tried to be the beatdown here, like getting the token on the battlefield, waiting for the Emperor to like be able to cast the Emperor at some point, and like when he thought he does not need to cast the Emperor, just trying to draw more cards with accumulated knowledge. Okay, it looks like Mr. Fringe conceded the game here on the spot. Just seeing not a way to win against Tensai in the last match. So, also a way to end this tournament here. Let's see what our table spotter is saying. Okay. Tensai getting ahead, winning the first game with the fast combo, like protected by the Grand Abolisher. Mr. Fringe not being able to continue playing here for a long time, thinks that he's not able to win this match in a short amount of time. So congratulations, Tensai, for winning the like summer invitational. This is so. Is this the third time for
I think
Tensai winning in a row? Not
I
in a
think
row, but in total.
I think it is actually the third time. It is very unfortunate, of course, that Mr. Fringe had to concede here. He had an appointment and didn't expect to go to get that far. And at the same time, yeah, playing a slow deck obviously takes its toll. But that's where it goes. Um,
Anyway, so at this point, thanks to Tensai and Mr. Fringe and all the other players, we've seen some great legacy matches. So even if we had to end the finals a little prematurely, I'm pretty happy that we were able to have these matches and see some great legacy being played. So very good on that regard. Congratulations to our winner, but now I should at least say a very big thank you to the man behind the scenes here who are making this possible. We have Mr. Jackdex, who's been working on the technical side all day long. Thanks a lot. We have Press BOTW, who's also like in the back doing table spotting, doing commentary all day, and
I'm
you
typing
eternally
a lot.
coming in here after playing in the tournament for a few rounds. So thanks to all the mods who worked here, Dr. Leo, the new owner of the server. So thank you everybody on helping out, and thanks a lot to the viewers here because without the viewers, this wouldn't make any sense. So thank you for tuning in and being part of the whole experience.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Just a short note. Tensai wants to play it out with Fringe off stream, unfortunately, but they want to do it, and let's hope we actually get the real finals eventually. And have a nice day.
Perfect. Have a nice one. See you around.